So this got me going down a rabbit hole that I didn't think that I would have to pursue, but weird where it took me. So hang in for the long ride on this one because we're definitely going somewhere. Essentially, I read this and for some reason I was like, we talk about this a lot throughout this entire case, but it's missing. We had the conversation earlier this week where we should start paying attention to the things that are missing. And at first, I started pursuing it because I thought there was a discrepancy in what she was saying in terms of the phrasing. Because I thought that in different documents, she was saying breastfeeding and then saying pumping in others, and it was inconsistent. So I started to dig a little deeper. And it may be because of stuff like this that I was confused. It's not a discrepancy. She does say both in different places. And then there's kind of an argument back and forth amongst the documents about whether or not she was topless, and uses a lot of language that makes it seem really egregious. But this is the part that really started to make me furious, because she enters as a footnote that she wasn't given the appropriate time, space, or opportunity to either breastfeed or pump for her child, saying that at times she couldn't do either for up to 6 hours while on set. And that's the part that starts to make me furious, because now it's obvious and apparent to me that she came into this wanting to weaponize anything she could in any which way at any given point for her own entitled, and what she believes, in my opinion, is her. It's like there's so many people that want us to believe that she's the only woman on this set that deserves any form of respect or any form of support, care, or compassion, because she steps on so many women in order to elevate her own victimhood, in my opinion, allegedly. And even more infuriating is that she's launched this whole thing wanting us to believe that Justin and Jamie, her camp has used the word predator. She wants us to believe that these men are so dangerous and threatening. And yet there are women like Anita Hill. There are women out there who are actively in harmful workplaces with actively threatening and harmful men in positions of power. And yet all throughout this whole thing, we see how Blake was able to get power, get control in places and spaces that she did not have the position. By the way that she was hired into this, those were not her places or spaces or positions to be in, but she manipulated, in my opinion, her way into all of these different areas. And as a mother who was not afforded this, and because of the way that I was hired 6 weeks after delivering my baby, and because I couldn't change any of the circumstances around my hiring, and I so desperately needed that work, I did what it took. I had a pump on either side of me on every break, and I took every single minute of that 15-minute break to race from my desk, get that task done, and get back in my seat in time for the training to begin exactly after the 15-minute window, because I was working for the government. And somehow Blake wants us to view her as some form of equal, and yet the threat that she seems to have experienced, I just know Anita Hill has read some of this and has been like, in my opinion, this whole attempt to get these men to be accountable could have been an email. So being that I have been a mother who has been subjected to a work environment where finding the place and time in a dignified way was an extreme challenge, and yet it didn't rise to the level of filing a grievance. It didn't rise to the level of filing a complaint. We all knew that it was for a limited time, and that I just had to get through this period of time in order for me to have better accommodations in a situation and window where that could be, we could make that compromise. But had it been a different situation where that was never on the table and that was never going to be forthcoming for me, you better believe that if I was going to file a grievance, let alone file any other complaint or make any other official move to get that corrected, you better believe that would have been the first thing that I would have put on my list. So where is this? Why wasn't this addressed in the 17-point list or in the list of 30 demands that needed to be met in order for her to return to set? Why was that not the priority? So even by this paragraph above it, it almost sounds like Blake came into this knowing that she was going to use everything about her in some form, in my opinion, allegedly, in some form of a weapon. Oh, a few weeks before, just less than 4 months after giving birth, as a mom who had to return to work exactly the day after my 6 weeks ended, after giving birth, 4 months later. What is that line? Did you bring a tiny violin to a knife fight? But going down this rabbit hole led me to the strangest place because it reminded me of a screenshot that I grabbed, and I don't know why I grabbed it the other day when I was triple checking on whether or not Blake Lively seeded her own so-called smear campaign. Because I remember how odd it was to see that she posted on her own Instagram so proudly that she was pumping at Disneyland in 2023. So openly that it got her a headline in December of 23. And they featured her own Instagram post. And they even remarked about her pump being visible. So she's very skilled in doing this publicly. And it started me going down a bigger rabbit hole because I was like, oh, has she done this before? And there are others, but these are just some of the highlights. So in 2017, a reporter enters the hotel suite and isn't prepared for the fact that she's going to walk in on Blake actively pumping. In 2015, she shared another post on her Instagram. I don't have it featured in here because it's not that bad, but I don't want to risk the potential for getting a CGV. It's not that bad. She even crops it out of the photo herself, but she again boasts about her breastfeeding journey through her Instagram. And she talks about the perks and how she's essentially, because she's breastfeeding, perky. And in 2023, she posts that she's missing the Met Gala because of her mom duties. But the weirdest one is this, in which her former co-star, Amber Tamblyn, goes on the Andy Cohen show, which Andy drinks some of Amber's breast milk. But it's inspired by the fact that her former co-star, I wasn't prepared for where this rabbit hole brought us. So do with that what you will. But I can't.